Okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Out of Nowhere, where we've got another fabulous guest on my show today, and it's a very unusual name, Dorinda Stewart. Dorinda is a renowned psychic, UFO enthusiast, coach, whose fascination work with spans the realms of the unknown and the mystical, with the insatiable curiosity for the unexplained and lifelong dedication to exploring the depths of the supernatural. Can we please welcome Joranda to the show? Hello there.
Hi. Thanks for having me. I appreciate that. Thanks. Yeah, that's what
Thank
I
you.
do. I do all kinds of unusual things.
I can guess so. How did it all start for you being a psychic medium?
Well, it's like everyone. We all have that story of something that happened to him in our childhood, and mine is no different. It did happen to me in my childhood, but mine was a little unusual. Is a little more sadness that happened. My brothers, I have brothers that were twins, and the one brother died at 2 months of crib death. But the night before that happened, it happened on New Year's Day. The night before, I was visited by something at the end of my bed that explained to me, I was at the age of 4, that this was going to happen, and that the reason that it was going to happen, and that I shouldn't be sad about it, so that I could go through and do that. And I think it was a really great thing for my mom, because I wasn't hysterical about it. I kind of understood what happened. So I was visited at a really young age, that these things were going to happen. So yeah. And then I'm Native American as well. So spiritual things and spiritual messages come all the time when I was growing up. So it's kind of, normal for me
Did
to
it?
have people there.
Oh, I can imagine so as well. Does it does it run in your family then?
Not
Really,
necessarily.
just
And they don't talk about it. It was just something that happened to me, and for some reason I didn't talk to my parents about it. I'm not sure why. It was just kind of like understood that I shouldn't talk about it. But with my native family, of course, is they talked about it all the time. So because I'm mixed. I have a white mother and I have a native father, and so it was the native part of me, it was not unusual to have those kind of things that happen, ghosts and spirits and lore, and all that was just what we did. It was just everyday thing. And my parents, my other parents, never really talked about it, and I never really discussed it with them. So it just happened when it was something that I didn't really, the psychic part was really something that I didn't really want, because I felt like when you're psychic, you have a lot of responsibility with that. And, I just wanted to be a teenage kid, doing whatever. And, I'd get these messages and I'm like, oh gosh. So, yeah. So, but, in the native realm, in the native realm, they're like, those are messages, and you're supposed to, take them seriously, and you're supposed to, relay the message and that kind of stuff. So I did. So I did, I lived in two worlds. As a matter of fact, my native name is one who walks in two worlds. So
oh, interesting,
yeah.
interesting. Did they ever talk about skinwalkers then in
Well,
your native?
skinwalkers. Oh, yes. Well, skinwalkers is mostly with the Navajo tribe. My people are Agala Sioux, but I've had the privilege to talk with some people over there in New Mexico, and Navajos. And the skinwalker is really something that they didn't like to talk about. It is real. But it was a malevolent witch. That's what it means. The word skinwalker means a evil witch. So and there's still some practices today that go on out in the desert with the skinwalker type things. So there's a ceremony, and they would don themselves with skins of animals, and then create these kind of ceremonies to you know put evil out there. It's not a nice thing. So that's basically what it is that it's not a really nice thing. It's really an evil thing. And a lot of the Navajo people don't talk about it. They don't want to talk about it because if you talk about it, it can bring it in. So that's a lot of things that happen with the Native culture, is that you don't talk about it because you can bring the evil or the wickedness or whatever in. So yeah, skinwalkers are pretty real in the Navajo, and even in my tribes as well, because they use it like the boogeyman. It keeps the kids in at night. You don't want to disturb the
Ah,
skinwalker. You
yes.
don't talk about that. So that's kind of the stories that we were learned as kids. So yeah, and it's not kind of what you think.
Did
I mean,
you
I'm sorry.
go on?
It's not
Go
really
on,
what you
carry
think.
on.
I mean, it's more ceremonial, and like some people think of it as a shapeshifter. So what I was told is that shapeshifting and skinwalkers were two different things. So what you'll learn is that each tribe has their own version of something like that. So you just have to go from tribe to tribe to find that. So yeah, so they don't really shape into animals as far as I know, but they
Yeah,
can. I
I
mean, I've
suppose
never
it's
seen
different, like
one,
you said, in
so I
every
don't know.
tribe. It's totally different.
Right, 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 and
Yeah.
yeah, it's a
Did
verbal
they talk?
language.
Did they talk about big? Did they talk
Bigfoot is
about
another
Bigfoot
thing,
then?
yeah, there's lots of different stories about Bigfoot. Bigfoot has been around for a really long time. Different tribes call him different things, the red man, the hairy man. So there was like so this the Bigfoot has been around for a really long time. There's even stories out there that Bigfoot and Native Americans were partners or friends at one time, and then things went awry, and that they made a pact that they would leave each other alone. So again, it's another story that you don't want to go outside at night because the Bigfoot. But in my practices and the Bigfoot hunts that I'm in, the things that I've seen, that they're a little more gentle than the scary monsters that they make them out to be. But it's kind of like anything, how there's a scary monster and that kind of stuff. But it's a respect thing, and that's one of the things about Native Americans, is that you respect nature. Everything in nature should be respected, and that's one of the things that go on with the Bigfoot. And so when we go out, my husband just published a book, is being published, is not finished out yet, about Bigfoot. And so we've gone on Bigfoot hunts, so to speak, and we've encountered some things, and I've seen one, and I tell you, I can't unsee it. So, but I saw it as an adult. I never saw it as a young child, but the stories were still there, with the tribes and things like that about Bigfoot. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a message from Mel here. Questions, should I say?
Hmm.
It should come up. Ah, message from Ginger. Any idea where the crick come from? And can you tell us how long you have been on our planet, if possible?
Well, you know, there's different versions of how Bigfoot got here, but in Native American cultures, um, we have a what we call the creation story, and the creation story is that we fell from the sky. Okay, so that kind of gives some people indications that maybe they're alien type things. Now, I'm not saying that that's true, but there's that the creation story, they come from the sky. And so Bigfoot and cryptids, they're here. I mean, I've never seen a dog man, but that doesn't mean he doesn't exist, because there are some people that have seen it. And I have seen, a Bigfoot. It wasn't a bear. It wasn't, what people think. It was a being that stood up and looked at me, and it with a very human face. And that's the thing that really kind of shocked me, was that it is a very human face. But I think they've been here as long as we've been here, as long as people have been on this planet. I think the cryptids and the Bigfoot and those kind of things are here as well. So I'm not sure the exact time that they're here, but I mean, we had dinosaurs here at one time, and they're extinct, so they might have came from the dinosaurs, or other things, but I don't really know that part. But I know that they've been here probably as long as we've been on the planet, people, human beings. So,
Tell us about your sightings.
well, it was pretty interesting because when I met my husband, he told me he was a Bigfoot hunter. And I thought, okay, I mean, there's legends and myths about Bigfoot. I grew up with that, but I'm like, okay, so he's a Bigfoot hunter, right? Like I see it. So anyway, we're going through the woods, and what he told me is that you had to look. So like what we do is we kind of look at a certain level, right? He said these are huge beings, so you have to look up and you got to look down. And another thing that they do is they have a trait where they call tree peeping. So what they do is they stand in front of a tree and they kind of go like this. So that's
Mm.
what happened is that I saw this movement, and then I saw that, and then this face came and it stared at me, and then I couldn't even speak, and then it dropped down and ran off like a bear. Okay, so it dropped down on all fours and ran off, and I just went, it's it's right there. And that was my first encounter. And I'm telling you, it's like, I've seen bears in the woods. I mean, I've seen them across the road and stuff, but this was not a bear. And just the look on the face, and it's just like there was like a knowing of it and stuff. So I mean, it's not that it happens every day when we go out. But I had an encounter, and my husband has had encounters as well. So, and I think when you're out in there in the woods and you're there, not because a lot of people want to hunt Bigfoot because they want to prove that it exists and they want the bodies and all that stuff. But I think if you go out there with the intentions of respect, I think you might be able to find it. And what's interesting is that it's everywhere. Every state in the United States has some sort of Bigfoot encounter. And I've over in Europe too, Rendition Forest, I think there's some people who have seen some structures that have gone on and stuff. So it's interesting. But what I believe about Bigfoot is that they migrate just like the Native Americans used to. So they don't stay in one place for too long. They migrate, and they do have family units too. So it's not like there's thousands of them at a time, but it's like 3 or 4 can migrate into, like a winter home or a summer home or whatever. So that's what I believe. So,
Do you think they're interdimensional then?
yes, very much so. Now, my husband, who's very scientific, he might not say that, but I believe that, and I believe that they can disappear. But what's interesting is that Native Americans have a way of walking and talking and being somewhere where people don't see them. They're there, but they're not seen. So it's like I feel that they kind of taken on either I'm sure the Native Americans have taken on what the Bigfoot does, but I'm sure that they're there, but you can't see them. I mean, we've had rocks and things thrown at us if we've gotten too close to a habitat. They don't try to hurt you, but they warn you. And then you've heard sounds too. There's a tree knocks and the sounds, and when you hear that sound, it's like it just kind of paralyzes you, like that infrasound kind of thing that goes on. And there's like a scream that happens in the woods. There's a place here in Michigan where we call the Field of Screams, and we've heard Bigfoot chatting back and forth there. So it's interesting. Like I said, they can be scary, but you have to be respectful. And if you show that you're not going to harm them, then you'll be surprised at the things they give you, gifts and things like that. There's like a gifting thing that they do. They gave my husband a cricket one time, or not a cricket, a grasshopper, a huge grasshopper, and he had to pretend like he was eating it because he didn't want to, disrespect them. But so it's like they're gifters, and they're I don't want to say they're an animal. I want to say they're a being, because what I saw was very human-like face looking at me. So I don't want to say it's an animal, but I think that's why people have a hard time finding them or seeing them, is because they're very smart and they know what man is about. And man in general usually wants to kill or hunt or that kind of stuff. So you have to, if you show some respect, and what you're looking for, you could probably encounter them. So
I know in some states you're not allowed to shoot them if you
well, yeah.
saw one.
Yeah, but the thing is that they nobody has claimed that they exist. You know what I mean? So they keep it. What's interesting is like in the national forest places, if there's a Bigfoot sighting or if there's a Bigfoot family there, what they'll do is they'll close off that area and they'll say that there's a rare bird nesting there or something, so you can't go into that area. And you're like, okay, a rare bird, all right. It's like it's up in a tree. How am I disturbing this bird? But it's because there might be some Bigfoot there. My husband in his book has some great stuff. I don't want to give away too much, but he's got some great stuff that's with that. Some national forester people have shown him some maps that have like pictures of Bigfoot. And even Mount St. Helen, when Mount St. Helen erupted, supposedly there were some carcasses of Bigfoot that was taken out of there. But it's sort of like the UFO stuff. It's like you see it and then they try to make sure that it's not, that you don't, like you're crazy or it didn't happen. So it's kind of the same thing. It's like, do UFOs exist? Does Bigfoot exist? Yes, I believe they do. So, yeah.
I think the government know more about Bigfoot and what
Yeah.
we do.
Right. Right. And it's a protection thing, which is fine. And that's good. They can protect them. And I think that's a great thing to protect these majestic animals because they are beings. They do bring, it's just an interesting thing. They have a family, or, they have families and they have all these other, things that go on. And like the migration and stuff, and the fact that they're so huge and you can't see them, but they do have a large, foot span too. So they could step on one foot on the road and be on the other side. And they're ridge walkers too. And this is the thing, is that when people, we're down here looking at our phones all the time, you're not going to see anything that's going to be, 8 or 12 feet tall when you're on your phone and not paying attention, because there's people that are in the woods that don't even look up, to see what's out there. So
It's strange you saying that because I go with a guy called Paul Sinclair. We go to Benton Cliffs. It's a bird sanctuary, but
yeah.
strange things happen there. We've seen UFOs in the sky, but bird watchers never look in the sky. They're always looking down here at birds
Mm-hmm.
on top of the cliffs. So if I said, hey, look at that up there, don't look.
Yeah, our cell phones are more important than the nature. And that's one of the things about Native Americans talk about, is that everything has a voice. Like if you listen to the trees, they talk to you. And the stones, they call stones grandma stones because they have wisdom and they talk. And so, when you go as a paranormal investigator into an old building, you put your hand on the wall and it can probably tell you some stories if you just listen. This is the thing, is that we're so chaotic and everything excuse me, and everything that we do, that, we're not listening, we're not paying attention.
Don't you think one of the things as well, if you do see something, you don't think about getting your camera ready, because time you've looked at it, you get gobsmacked what you're seeing and then it's gone.
Yes, that's true. And then there's times when you sit there and you think to yourself, I should reach for my camera, and you don't. So, there's a legend out there that Bigfoot has mind control that, keeps you from that. They hate cameras. I mean, you put those game cameras on out there and people are trying to catch them and stuff. And sometimes you can see like a little arm or something, but they know the cameras are
I'm
there.
sure,
They know
I'm
when
sure
you're
they do.
there. Pardon?
I'm sure they do. I'm sure they
Yeah.
know when there's
Yeah.
cameras about.
Yes, yes. And I find it funny when people go in and they whisper when they go into the woods to look for Bigfoot. It's like they know you're there. So why are you whispering? You know what I mean? It's like, it's like they know you're there. You don't have to,
Well, you
you
can. I know when I go out on the night time and everything like that, I'll say to Paul, I'm sure someone's watching me.
hmm
You can feel it sometimes. It could be anything.
right. It could
Um, we've
wolves
had
or, anything. Yeah.
well, where we are on that coast, we've had lots of sightings of werewolves from
Mhm.
lots of different people who don't know each other, and they've all come from different parts of the UK to come
Yeah.
to bird sanctuary, but seen something else.
Yes, yes. And isn't that great that they do? I mean, it's like, I mean, I think it's kind of selfish of us to think that we're the only ones here. There's discovery of new species all the time. I mean, look at the ocean. That's kind of something where people haven't even really got into the depths of the ocean to really find out what it is. But again, being Native American, everything is here. I mean, I see all these things. I wrote a lot of those things in my book about the UFOs, because Native American tribes talk about UFOs. They have petroglyphs on a rock that shows spaceships and alien beings, tall beings like Bigfoot. They have those things on there, and they're centuries old. So how are they, I mean, a lot of centuries old, so millennia old or whatever. So it's like they have those things on there. So why would they put those things on there if it wasn't something that they've encountered?
Yeah, I bet you love going out and investigating,
Yeah.
especially with your husband who's into Bigfoot.
Yes, I do love. And the thing is that it's so interesting because, my husband and I go out, and there's different symbols that, go. So like there's some things that like X's you can see, and there's pointers, but they're so subtle. Like it looks like a tree that's fallen down. And one time we were driving, and I said, "You got to stop." And I said, "There's a pointer." And then there was like an X that was kind of in the woods up there. And, sometimes that happens naturally. But when we went up there, we went into this area, and there was all these habitats, these tree stacking, and these branches that were intertwined. I mean, there was no way that a tree fell like that. It's so interesting and cool to see that, but it's in remote areas, because I live in the state of Michigan. And Michigan,
Hmm.
the Upper Peninsula, is very remote. It's like it has like I can't think 900 miles of forest up there. And so when there's not a
Oh
lot
God.
of people, yeah, when there's not a lot of people, you see a lot of cool things. I mean, we rent this cabin up there, and that all there is just this cabin, and there's like a different time zone, from Wisconsin to Michigan up there. I mean, it's just very remote, and we see some really cool things up there, stuff. So yeah, yeah. It's good out in the
Yeah,
forest.
I'm going to say that. Tell us about your book.
Well, my book is it's called Native Spiritual Realms. It's a guide to Native American paranormal, which is really just normal, because ghosts and things like that are stuff that Native Americans have always talked about. So I wanted to bring the Native culture into the paranormal culture, because I think it's really important that they understand, that certain Native Americans have lived this stuff. And so, going to different reservations and things like that. I wasn't raised on a reservation, but I've gone to reservations and had stories told to me that were really interesting. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to put that in a book. And so this is my first book. And I really wanted to stress, it was a labor of love, because I am dyslexic. So, to write something like this and to have to go through it and edit it over and over and over and over and over
Oh
again.
my God.
Yes, because it's, I'm dyslexic, and I'm like, what did I just say there? So I had to redo it and stuff. So this was a labor of love. So it's on Amazon. And so it just talks about all the different things. It talks about Bigfoot. It talks about sacred dance, movement. The Native Americans have a ghost dance where we talk to our ancestors. So it talks about all those things that are like what people like in paranormal. So and it's just a little guide. It's just like a little guidebook. It tells a little bit about some stories and things like that. I had the pleasure of going to I was in a theater group, and I did a native dance in the theater group. And we went to the World's Fair in Spokane, Washington in 1974. I was 16, and they had an Indian or Native American pavilion. And I got to go there, and I got to talk to all tribes from all over the world, and including Canada. And it was such a great time for me to sit there and have these stories told to me. So some of them are my experiences, and some of it are the stories that were told to me. So, yeah.
And so, can you give us some stories? Where you've interviewed people. Tell us a little bit about different cultures and
Well, I have a supernatural encounter I can read to you about right now.
yeah.
So I'm just going to read from the book here. Make sure I can see here. It's called Ghostly Apparitions, Spirits from the Other Side. In the depths of time, our ancestors lived in harmony with the spirit world, embracing the belief that the veil separating the two realms was thin. It was a mutual respect, a delicate dance between the corporal and ethereal beings. However, as the years passed, the modern world encroached upon our sacred lands, and this harmony became disrupted, and disputed. One of the most haunting encounters took place on the outskirts of a remote native reservation, and this, I believe, was in New Mexico. The whispers of the elders led me into the woods, into the dense woods, where a dilapidated and abandoned house stood as a solemn reminder of forgotten memories. It was said that a spirit of a young girl, taken too soon by illness, dwelled within the decaying walls. As I entered the house, an icy breeze sent shivers down my spine, making me acutely aware of the presence surrounding me. The air grew thick with a sense of melancholy, and as I ventured further inside, the energy intensified. Shadows danced on the walls, the ether forms whispering secrets of their past. Suddenly, a chill raced through the room, causing goosebumps to rise on my flesh. From the corner of my eye, I glimpsed of a figure standing in the doorway. It was the presence and emitting both shadows. The presence was emitting both sadness and longing. It was the ghostly apparition of a young girl, her translucent form flickering before me. Her eyes, filled with sorrow and longing, pleaded for me to understand her existence. As a psychic, I could hear the echoes of her voice, a soft whisper in the wind, recounting the pain and suffering she endured during her short life. It was as if she was trapped in a perpetual cycle of reliving her tragic end. In that moment, I couldn't help but feel a deep empathy for the young girl's plight. It was a stark reminder that these apparitions were not mere entertainment or imagination, but genuine souls clinging to our world. This presence, many times misunderstood or dismissed as mere folklore, held a deeper truth about the interconnectedness of life and death. Throughout my journey as a native paranormal investigator, I have come to appreciate the importance of preserving the stories and experiences of those ghostly apparitions. Their presence within the Native American community serves as a testament to our connection with the spirit world and the significance of honoring the past. By bearing witness to these chilling encounters, the ghostly apparition in Native American communities, I hope to shed light on the ethereal beings lingering among us, sharing their stories and the history they yearn to convey. Through this understanding, we can bridge the gap between the living and the dead, fostering a sense of reverence for those who have departed from the world but continue to impact our lives from beyond the veil. In the face of skepticism and dismissal, my mission as a Native American paranormal investigator remains unwavering. With each encounter, I'm reminded of my responsibility to delve deeper into the mysteries of the spirit world, uncovering the hidden truths and bringing them to light. Ghostly apparitions may be elusive, but their presence bear witness to the rich tapestry of Native American communities and timeless connection we share with the spirit from the other side. And what's interesting too is that what people may not know is the Native American history, the wars and things like that that took place in the Americas. But there was other things that went on too. There was the schools, the children were taken from their parents and went to these schools, and some of these children were killed, and tortured and things like that because of religious beliefs and religious things. They wanted to take the native out of them. They didn't want them to be Indian anymore. They wanted, if they spoke their language or if they spoke their traditions, it was a punishment for them. So a lot of these ghosts in the Native American realm especially have some really horrific stories to tell. So
It's quite hard, isn't it? Have you ever been on a paranormal somewhere where you got scared, or have you ever been attacked?
Well, my husband and I, my husband wrote a book called Demons, A Secular Look. So what happened is that his friend was being plagued by something, and he thought that it was ghost, but it turned out to be something else. It was demonic. So my husband and I have done demonic cases as well. So yes, the answer is absolutely. But again, you have to respect that whole thing. I don't challenge demons or the evil. And ghosts can be kind of nasty too. So like if you're kind of a kind of a hard person to get along with, I guess, a-hole or whatever, and in life, you can be that in death as a ghost too. So if they're nasty people and they're evil people when they were alive, they can be evil people as ghosts as well. So yes, and I've had times where because being
Yeah,
psychic, you open yourself up more to that, and they kind of want, they want to get in you, and I don't want that. So being psychic, I have to try to close myself off sometimes because I don't want the evil to
exactly.
follow me home, and all that stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of times I've been frightened, yes, and we still keep doing it because there's no one else that does it. People call us and they have these entities in their home, and they try to call the church, because the Catholics have the exorcisms, and they don't help them, especially if there's some sort of mental illness or something like that. If they find out that you have any kind of mental illness, they won't help. So we've had people that each state has a diocese, that has an exorcist in it, and they'll call the diocese and they'll refer them out to my husband and I to go and do the stuff. So yeah, so we've done some, demon hunting and ghost hunting, both. So yeah.
What's the most frightening one you've been to then?
Well, when they start to attack you, that's the thing, is that this energy that comes in it attacks you, and they can scratch you and stuff like that. I mean, I was down in a basement, and this thing came up, and it just like kind of like came up over me like this, and I ran out of there. I'm like, I'm not going to be part of this. And luckily my husband was there and some other people were there. But they do, I mean, it's frightening sometimes. They can cause harm, scratches and stuff like that. So the scratch will come, and then it'll dissipate, and you're like, okay. So again, you have to be respectful, you have to have protection. And one of the things that I've discovered is that I have to be positive within myself to be able to ward this off, because demons are not
Mm,
necessarily afraid of Christian crosses or any of that stuff. So people think like the blood of Jesus or something. Sometimes they don't, it doesn't affect them. It has to do with the person, the victim. If the victim is a believer and they truly believe, then that will help protect them from the evil. So yeah, there's lots of encounters that we've
trouble is, you
encountered.
can get attacked. You could be somebody could attach to you, and you
Hmm.
could fetch it home with you.
Yeah, there's attachments too, but what we've discovered is that uh it's those people that come in, because we have groups. We had people that came and joined. We have the Society of Demonologists. If anyone wants to look that up, there's a website called Society of Demonologists, and we had people that would come and
Right.
help with us. And they're younger, these young guys. They sit there, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not afraid of a demon," and all that stuff. And it's like they're the ones that usually bring something home. You know what I mean? You have to respect it, and you can't be too arrogant, because these things are smarter than you. I mean, they are. So I find that really interesting that, they'll call us up and say, I brought something home. And you're like, really? So it's like, okay. So then we have to go help investigate and help, them out. So yeah. And they don't last very long either, because sometimes it's pretty boring, when you go into a ghost hunt or a demon hunt, something doesn't happen because they think of things that are on TV. like, the pea spitting, exorcist, head turning kind of stuff. It doesn't look like that. It's very subtle. Like things will fly off the wall and hit you or something like that. But they're all brave until something really happens. Like one time, there's hallucinations that happen. So one time I was sitting there and this guy had all these deer heads on the wall, and it looked like this deer head looked at me and looked back, and I went, oh man, this is a hallucination. But you know what I mean? It's a scare tactic to scare you into not,
Got it.
pursuing. Yeah. So I'm
Through
like,
conscious,
okay,
it's like going through consciousness,
yes, yes. And so you're like, okay,
giving it you.
keep your wits about you and stuff. So yeah. Yeah. The
Have
ghosts,
you
I mean,
ever been on?
I'm sorry.
Have you ever been on a look for werewolves? Then
Um, no, but my husband's latest thing is he's talking about dog man, because I guess Michigan has a dog man, so he wants
yes,
to do that. But I, I think, if there's going to be a cryptid that's going to be kind of, hard to control, maybe it would be a dog man. I would think he'd be kind of a, a thing that would attack, because there's in Native American cultures, they have the Wendigos, they have all these different things
that's
that
right.
have attacked them. So it's always these dog man type things, so yeah, I'm not looking forward to that. He can probably go on his own for that because I'm not interested. So yeah, but we've talked about that, and then in the native cultures they've talked about that too. So, and again, in native cultures they always say respect it, just stay away from it. You know what I mean? So they don't want you to be involved in it. But it's kind of interesting to research to find out exactly if these things exist and how they exist and why they exist. So
When you look at things like this, things happened in Egypt all them years ago where things with strange heads on and all that. So why can't things like that come
right.
into today's culture?
Right, exactly. And one of the interesting things, one of the protection things that we use is the Eye of Horus, which is an Egyptian thing that we use when we wear.
Yes.
It's the Eye of Horus. So the Egyptian magic is pretty, I think it's one of the. I mean, if you think how far back they go, Egypt and all that stuff, it's probably one of the first civilizations that have. All this stuff, and they were steeped in a lot of cultural and myths and protocol too that they did. When you have a lot of protocol and things, I mean, where did those things come from? Why did they want symbols, like coins in the eyes or things like that? Where did this come from? Where did this folklore come from? Why do people talk about that? So you think, well, there might be some truth in that because it's been passed down from generation to generation. But I think it's really interesting that there's a lot of culture, especially in the Egyptian lines.
I suppose there's a lot to learn in the Indian culture
Mm-hmm.
from years gone by, trying to
Right,
find out more information about what other animals they might have seen.
right. I just saw an Expedition X about Petra, and they had dug below Petra. But I can't think what it's called, the one building that was there. I can't think of it right off the top.
Oh yes,
They
I'm with you.
the Senate or something like that. They dug deep down and they found some burial. They found bones and things down there, which in their mind, the culture did burials differently. So there's things that we don't know. I mean, even Rome, they built buildings on top of buildings. So there's so much below that we're not even unless it gets excavated. How are you going to know what is there? And as modern times go and we have these modern equipment, we might be able to find out a little bit more about the histories that have gone on with that. So
Have you seen UFOs as well?
well, yes. I'm not a big fan of the UFO phenomena, but just because I am a excuse me, I am a past life regression hypnotist. Okay. So I've had some people who have had some encounters. And, the UFO thing is very interesting because there's people that are more oh, this is really great. And they're just, they're heavenly spirits. They're great. They're this and that. And then there's the ones that had these horrific, um,
Abductions.
encounters. And in my hypnosis stuff, I have not met the kumbaya. Yeah, this is great. I've always met the ones that are like frightened and screaming and, horrific poking and prodding. So I find that really interesting, that whole UFO thing. But I have seen a UFO. My husband saw one just a couple years ago. We were driving home from a demon case, which was interesting. And there was this thing in the sky, and it looked like it was scaffolding, and it was just so huge. And I went to my husband. I go, "Do you see that?" And he goes, "Yeah, I do." And then it went blank. It just went away. It's like, oh my gosh, it just like flew away. So that they come in different sizes and different kind of ways. And again, there's that thing where I'm like thinking I should have grabbed my phone and I didn't, and he goes, "I see it too." And then once we both locked eyes on it, it just disappeared. But it was huge in the sky and it was nothing holding it there. But it was like these lights. It was kind of a weird shape. So when you think of UFOs, people think of the circular or
No, they do.
the tic tac, all that stuff. It's like I think they come in different things. You know what I mean? So yeah, but it's not something that
Different, I can
I
say different shapes and sizes.
yes, exactly. So yeah, and then, but again, in my culture, they talk about UFOs all the time, and there's encounters that they have where it's, like some of our ancestors will say that, the sky people, because they call them the sky people, are there
That's
to
right.
help and bring, information and help us progress. And then there's others that are say that, they're, that is evil and all this stuff too. So there's like these different things, and that's with anything that you have in any kind of culture. There's like someone who says it's good and someone that says it's bad. And I guess that's the yin and yang of it, right? Is that there's good and there's bad and everything. So, and you have to respect both sides of it, I think.
Do you think we are chosen to see something like a Bigfoot, a werewolf, a UFO?
Well, I mean, okay, so I don't, yes, in a way, but this is the thing, is that there's people who've seen things that are skeptics who deny it. You see what I mean? So there's a deniability there. And so that's the thing that I find really interesting, is that, a person who sees it and they know that they've seen it and then they deny it because, it doesn't make any sense to them. Um, it's there. I mean, see, I believe that everyone has a little bit of psychic ability. I think it's just a muscle that you have to work. And
Yes.
so, I what I find really interesting is the skeptics. And, and I think that there's people who are looking for fame that are going on the skeptic way, because, the other side is so saturated that they're going to sit there and say, well, I don't think this exists. This is something else. It's like, it's a source somewhere else or whatever. And, I don't know. I think, I believe that, we have a spirit side and a scientific side. And, it's like we should just merge them together and just, go with it. Some things are unexplained, and some things are
Oh, yeah.
explained,
I
you know.
agree with you sometimes. But, I could see something. The two of us could see, stood there looking at something. And I said, "Did you see that?" I said, "What?"
Right.
And
Right.
that person might not be able to see it, but I can.
Right. And but maybe they did see it, but in their mind, I mean, because it's like the mind is kind of a complicated thing too. So there's like so
Totally.
many different things that go on with that sort of thing. Because there's things that my husband's seen that I haven't seen, and vice versa. But and there's things we've seen together. But again, when you have, some people have a lot more, if you believe, okay, so there's like a belief system. Everybody has like this belief system. If you believe that there's can be unusual, then I think you're going to see unusual. But if you believe that everything has got everything, nothing is unusual, nothing's new in the universe, then I think that's what you believe too. It's like a belief system. So yeah, but I
Because
believe.
years ago, I know I saw an object in about 1962 in the sky, but I got ridiculed about it
So yeah, and
because
that's the
they were
thing.
saying, "Don't be so silly. You've never
Mhm.
seen anything like that." I said, "I
Yeah.
have."
Yeah. Well, I think it's because 'cause they're scared. I mean, think about that. If if people actually believe that aliens are real and all this stuff and they can't control them, that's a scary thought. We want to be able to be in control in our lives and that kind of stuff. So I think that's another thing. But people take the risk. You're going to be ridiculed if you sit there and you say, I saw this, I saw a UFO, I saw this. And it's like, I think, why would you take that risk if you didn't see it? So like Betty and Barney Hill, I don't know if are you familiar with Betty and Barney
Yeah,
Hill?
I am. Yeah,
Okay, so,
yeah.
I mean, we're talking, in the 60s, and it was a mixed race couple, which, they had issues back in the 60s, with mixed race stuff. Why would they bring that attention to everyone if they didn't see what they saw? That's what I always think. Why would they want to um, put themselves out there, like that, and not have it be true, And I think
Well,
they didn't they check her dress or
and
something? I think.
I would say Travis Walton had lots of problems when he
Yes,
went missing for a week. There's
right.
people still out there saying now, "Oh, it's a load of rubbish." You know,
Hmm.
he's gone through hell. It's Travis
Yes.
trying to, he's um, to tell his story.
Right, right. And think about this. The story that he tells in my hypnosis things, most of those people have the same story. They're poked and prodded, they're laying on a bed, there's a big light there. So it's like, um, you know, the stories are the same and they're under hypnosis. So it's not like, they're consciously saying this because they don't really want to go into that direction because we're doing past lives. They're thinking that, they're a king or queen or something. And all of a sudden this alien thing comes through that they weren't even aware of sometimes. So that's the thing that's kind of interesting that I find too, is that, where did that come from, and it's usually a young age and they have these things that happen to them where they get in trouble because of the lack of time. They lost time and things like that. So it happened when they were really young. And so I find that really interesting that some of the stories are similar. So people that don't
I
even know
I
each other.
I interviewed a couple about, God, how long now? 7 years ago. They were going out together at the time. She got pregnant. Went to I think she was 3 months gone or something like that. One night they were in bed and they got taken, abducted to a spaceship. Um, he was laid on one and she was laid on the other, and they took the baby away. Didn't realise till she got back into bed, and she woke up in the morning, blood all over the place. Went to doctors and he said, "You was pregnant, but you're not pregnant now. Baby had gone."
Yeah.
She was devastated, absolutely devastated. And they separated not long after. And then it was something like 5 years later when I got in touch with him and he told the story. He said, "I wonder if she'll," because they weren't living together no more, but they
Mhm.
came back together to tell the story.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Amazing
that's pretty
story.
devastating. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty devastating, and that happens more than you think too. I mean, there's breeding programs and things like that. So it's like I'm not a researcher of UFOs. I just know of the encounters and the things that I have with my clients for the past life regressions and that kind of stuff. But I mean, I researched it. There's a lot of things that go on, and then there's a lot of people that are abductees that don't talk about it. Because they don't want to be ridiculed or judged. And you can't blame them, for that. And, but again, then and there's a deniability too. There's people that are denying the stuff that is going on too. Is the human mind is a pretty interesting and complicated vessel, but I mean, these stories that are so similar, and I mean, I realize that when you look things on TV, you see some of these things that go on and stuff, but there's the way that these people talk, it's different. It's not like a made for movie type scenario that they're talking about. It's something that they have emotions and all kinds of things that go on with that. So why would they have that if it was just something they're just trying to, become famous for talking about? So That's what I say.
You must find it difficult when you're doing regression and something comes out like that. You think, oh my God.
I know it frightens me sometimes, because sometimes, you know, when they're distressed, and my whole thing is that if you're in distress, I'm bringing you back. You know what I mean? Because I don't want you to have a heart attack here. I don't want you to have any of that stuff. But it's interesting, the battles. There's battles that go on and all that stuff too. And so yeah, because like I said, they're doing a past life regression that they think that they're gonna, like they were, Mary Magdalene. A lot of people think that there's someone famous, that they met Jesus or something like that.
How
And
do you,
pardon.
how do you go on about it when you first when they first
When we
go
do the
under
how do
regression?
I go
Yes.
about the past life?
Yes.
Yes. Well, we take it, like each hypnotist has a different way of taking them down through something, looking in the mirrors and things like that. But and sometimes you don't go that far back. Sometimes you go just like to someone's childhood or whatever. And sometimes they're blocked because a lot of people have some blocks. Sometimes they have to, you have to push through some of that. Some people say that they can't be hypnotized. Most people can be hypnotized. Some people do remember when it was talked about. But when the people that can't be hypnotized, there's like a block that they don't want to have revealed. And I usually don't push that if it's something that's personal or whatever, because the subconscious mind is pretty interesting. And I can't make a person jump on a table and quack like a chicken unless they have a few pints and they do it normally. You see what I'm saying? So if that's your
Yeah.
personality, I can say, okay, you're going to do this. But people get scared of the hypnosis sometimes too. But like I said, when it goes in there, it's like this mood changes. It's like a mood changes because sometimes it's kind of light and airy, and then when you get into this abduction, their body language is a lot different. They shake and they're like agitated and things like that. And I'm like, okay, here we go. And then I have to keep reminding them that you're safe and you're in a safe environment, and that you're not there. You're just looking at it like a television, that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Looking
interesting.
inside of it.
Yeah, look, yeah, because and then sometimes I'm counting to 10 and you're going to wake up and they don't, and so then I have to go back. I said, please listen to me. This is what I'm telling you. I'm going to count backwards from 10, and when I get to 1, you're going
That
to be
must
fully awake and here.
that must be difficult if for some reason they don't want to come back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But eventually you can, because is the subconscious mind. So I just keep repeating it, and I do get them back because and the thing is what people need to know, because there are with hypnosis is that there's suggestions for like stop smoking. Like if you want to lose weight or stop smoking, there's suggestions that are put there. But in past life, I am just taking you on this journey, and you're telling me what's going on. I'm not suggesting anything. I just say, what do you see? Who's there,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So you got to be careful with when you do hypnosis, that people are not suggesting things, because they can put some things in the subconscious mind. So that's what I always say. Make sure you know your hypnotist, and you feel comfortable with your hypnotist, because that's what it's all about. It's like if you're
Yeah.
irritated by their voice, you're not gonna you're not gonna get hypnotized. So
And I suppose you've got to relax as well.
yeah,
And
you gotta relax. Yeah.
you got to relax and think, right, this is gonna be good. I'm gonna enjoy this.
hmm And what I find really interesting is that people will say, well, I heard you the whole time. And I'm like, yeah, that's good. I want you to hear me the whole time. But what they don't realize is some of the things that they've said or whatever. And so that's the thing that you have to remember when you're doing past life regression with someone who has an alien abduction, is that they're going to remember that, so you have to calm them down and tell them that it's not real, and, this and that, and, just make notes and stuff, and then have a conversation with them, because it can be pretty traumatic. And like I said, there's some battles that happen. I had this one client who did a battle, and for some reason he won in this battle, and then that made it so he didn't feel that he needed to talk about the abduction anymore. It felt like he had had some control over what had happened to him as a child or whatever. So it's interesting how the different things work with the past life regressions. So and
Yeah, I've had lots of people on the show saying, "Oh, I'd love to do that." I said, "Well, you've got to find somebody who can trust
Right, right. And you
to
can
have
do
it
it on a
done.
Zoom call too, but this is the thing, like for me, I want to be able to see because like because you and I, you can't see what unless my hands are up here, you can't see if what I'm doing with my hands or fidgeting or something like that. Because when I'm doing a hypnosis, I like to see your body language to see what's going on. So if you're in the United States and Michigan, you can come and I'll do a past life regression. So,
Exactly, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, we've nearly come to the end of the show. 5 minutes left. Um, if anybody wants to find you, get in touch with you and buy your book, where can they find you?
Okay. I have a website. It's called DorindaJStewart.com. So they can find me there. All my services and things are there. The book is on Amazon, Amazon.com. The European prices, I'm not sure, but the American prices, I have paperback and hardcover. Paperback is $11.95 and the hardcover is $15.95. So, yeah.
And this regression, can you do it by Zoom then?
Yeah, you can do it by Zoom. You can do it by Zoom. But what I'm saying is that let's just say, Bob, you were abducted. I wouldn't want to do that because I want to be able to watch your body language. Okay. So I can regress you back into, something. But if you were an abductee, I wouldn't be able to see your hands or things like that. So that would make me a little uncomfortable. So I might not be able to go as further down as I would be able to if you were in person. So I have done Zoom calls for people all the time, but I'm just saying that the abduction type things, you should probably find someone that you can see in person just because, if you get into a situation where your body and you get agitated, they got to be able to see that. And I would want them to be able to take you out of that. So, but you
Yeah,
can
I
use
would
Zoom
think so
too.
as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
what you got planned for the future then?
Well, I'm writing another book, a couple books. And one of them is called Wife of a Ghost Hunter, how I met my husband and all the ghost hunting stuff. And it's going to be like a series, Wife of a Ghost Hunter, Wife of a Demon Hunter, Wife of a Bigfoot Hunter, that kind of stuff. Because, the demon stuff my husband got me into. We're new. We've been married about 8 years. So I did ghost hunting long before him, but the demon stuff, he brought that to me. So darn him. But it's interesting because I've encountered some things where I didn't know exactly what it was, but it's kind of interesting because people, um, you know, when you do a demon stuff, sometimes people just want to tell their story. And, so it's important that, we listen to them. They're going to say, you're not going to believe this, but this and this and this happened. And we're like, yeah, we believe it because we've seen it before. So that's very satisfying that way, for the demon stuff and the ghost stuff. And then, other stuff, but I'm writing some more books. I do psychic readings and things like that at a metaphysical store here in Michigan. I'm a host of the Wish game, which if you haven't heard about the Wish game, it came from Australia. So that's kind of a cool thing. It's kind of like a 3-hour psychic reading that you go through.
Right?
Yeah. So it's a very cool
We
thing.
do that on Zoom then,
We couldn't do it on Zoom. Yeah. We could do a Zoom thing. Yeah. That would be really cool.
just
Yeah.
in case anybody wants to get in touch with
Yeah,
you
yeah, get
about
together.
that.
Yeah. It's a game board that has it's limited to 8 people, and so you have a monitor, and then you have 8 people, and then uh, uh, one of the things is that they help you pick a stone and you move around the board. So the thing is that we'd have to show the board and just move around for other people. But what's interesting is it helps with blocks, that what people block to keep them from their wishes. So it's kind of an interesting thing that you can do, that these cards kind of, you set your intentions. It's a very cool game. It's a very cool game, and not very many people here in the States play it. So that's a new project that I've taken on, is that I have a group of people. It's great for like, a night out with the guy, with the people, if you want to do a little game night or
Oh
something like
yeah.
that. It's kind of a fun little thing to do, so yeah.
Where can people get your husband's book as well then?
It's on Amazon as well. His book is on Amazon. It's called Demons: A Secular Look, and he does have a new book that's going to be coming out. I self-published. He went through a publisher, so he's going to have a new Bigfoot book coming out and stuff. So, and then we're gonna we have a new project that we're working on. We're going to talk with ghosts and kind of ask some questions about, what is it like to be a ghost? Can you breathe? Can you taste? Can you, different things like that. So that's a new project that we're going to try to do to see if we can get some, information about being a ghost. So that's a
That'd
new
be
thing.
interesting to do a podcast on that as
Yes,
well.
it would be. Yeah, yeah. And I do have a podcast called Wife of a Demon Hunter. So I haven't done any I haven't done any podcasting in a while, but we'll probably have a YouTube video and stuff with that too. But I just kind of did it and talked to some really cool people about different, things. So yeah. We talked with Anne Tahern. I don't know if you're familiar with in Scotland, the Arthur Conan Doyle building in
Oh,
Scotland.
yes.
Yeah, and so it was interesting how that came about. Anne Traherne had a bunch of people that came, and Arthur Conan Doyle talked through her to create this building and stuff. So that I have that on there. I have I have a lot of people from Europe on that podcast as well. So check it out. Check it out. So, but
Oh, brilliant.
DorindaJStewart.com.
Oh, lovely. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for
Thank
coming
you
on the
so much for
show.
having me.
It's been
It went by so
wonderful. I've
fast.
enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Been
it went by
good.
so fast. Thank
No,
you.
Diane in chat room said, really enjoyed tonight's very interesting guest.
Oh,
That's from
thank you.
Diane in chat room.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. So thank you again. Yeah. I'll when your husband's book's out, I'll have to get him to come on.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely do that. Yep. Yep. Sounds good.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you again. Have a
Thank you.
lovely
Bye.
weekend.
You
You
too.
take
Thank you.
care,
Thank you.
and I'll send you the recording of the podcast.
Oh, yay. Thank you. I love that. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night and God bless.
Good night.
And I'll see you on the other side.